trust yourself. Just like be weird, be yourself, write about things that you want to talk about, things that you think your audience wants to talk about. When you're yourself and when you're truly yourself and confident, you can't go wrong.
Sharp strategies, sweet success. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sharp Strategies, Sweet Success. Today, my guest is Grace Clark, who works at Donahoe Kearney. I'll leave it to her to talk a little bit about herself. So I'll just tell you that I met Grace through the Great Legal Marketing Tribe, their mastermind group. And we also met again at the GLM Summit, and she's just a really fun-loving but dedicated marketer. I had a great time hanging out with her, getting to know her, and wanted to invite her on the podcast to share what she's doing at her law firm and what it's like being a marketing director for a Washington D.C. firm. So without further ado, welcome Grace Clark. And just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and kind of what you're doing now.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I am the marketing director at Donahoe Kearney. I've been only about 2 years, but this is my first time in the legal realm at all. So I met Tiffany, like she said, in our mastermind groups, which is how I pretty much met everyone besides people I'm related to in the legal field. So I'm really excited to be here and talk a little bit about my journey.
Yeah. So Grace, tell us a little bit about like how you got into legal marketing. You said this was your first legal marketing job, but definitely not your first job. So tell us a little bit about like what got you here.
Yeah, so I'm like a professional job hopper. I mean, if you look at my resume, like you wouldn't hire me. And so that's why I give so many people grace when I'm looking at their resume. Because I understand the job hop. I've worked in just about every industry, honestly. I started, babysitting Kmart, International Pickle Trade Association, radio, lobbying at Capitol Hill. So I've really spread myself out, but none of them stuck, obviously. And I think the reason that none of them stuck is because most of them were large corporations. And I was already trying to fit into someone else's box of branding and the way I could talk and the way I could express myself. And I just feel like that's just so not me or my personality. So it was kind of like the universe like shoving them away from me. And I was actually in between jobs. I had just moved back from the area from Philadelphia and I was walking dogs and nannying. Always just been a hustler. And that's when I met Frank, my boss now, Trade Frank Carney. We ended up meeting at a hoagie shop and I like didn't believe it at first that he was like a lawyer. Honestly, really, he was so chill that I was like, okay, what's going on here? This is odd. But I got to know obviously that was his personality. So we had some sandwiches and just had a super casual conversation like this. And when he got up, he said, "Can you come in Monday?" And I said, "Yeah." So I went in pretty blank.
That's really cool. And it's kind of interesting because I talk to a lot of people who are like just starting in legal marketing, and they're like really intimidated, I guess, by the lawyers and the legal staff. And almost everyone I interview for marketing says, "Well, I don't get the legal stuff. I don't know that." And it's like, yeah, we know we're hiring you for marketing and business, because that's just like a huge part of running a law firm. It's not all like what the paralegals do or what the lawyers do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It just they tend to have, like, a different personality than, I guess, what you would expect just by, like, watching TV or what you think, like, a lawyer is.
Yeah, and I mean, I come from a small town in Scranton, and I was used to seeing all the billboards and everything's so serious and the messaging is so harsh. I think I didn't even think about the marketing aspect of it. I think I genuinely saw it as this like huge entity that people are afraid of. And I knew I didn't want to treat it like that. And I knew certainly Donovan Carney never treated it like that.
Well, I think that's the interesting thing about working, like, because I came from a lot of my listeners know I came from Great Legal Marketing. I worked there for quite a while. And like that group of attorneys who are just kind of in that universe are very different even from like other attorneys or regular attorneys, which I need to remind myself. And it's nice when you can work with somebody who is practical, down to earth, and also, like, the expectations, like, of corporate marketing where we're doing something within a brand color or we're only allowed to say this and allowed to say that, it's so constraining, like, I totally get what you're saying, like, you just need to be yourself and kinda get away from that. It's not very creative, corporate marketing, particularly when you're on the lower rungs, I guess.
Oh, for sure. And one of the things Frank said to me in the beginning was, "Who cares about branding?" And at first I was like, "That's insane for a marketing person to hear, like, that's all we've ever fought for."
Yeah.
And, I mean, it really does make sense, like, now that I have, like, time to sit on it and think of it, of our approach of marketing is, like, we're not relying on our brand and our logo to bring people to us. We have a totally different approach, which is that down to earth, approachable type of people you're gonna talk to, not that scary law firm stuff, so,
Yeah. The the branding, like, people just like, marketers in particular, when we say, like, we don't really care about brands or that's not we're and branding isn't important to us. I mean, that's everything, like, a marketer is taught in college, like,
yeah.
or if you go to get an MBA, like, it's brand, 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 and it's so funny, like, how, like, that ends up being, like, a small part of what we do.
So true. So true. Someone else picked the logo out. I just kind of slap it on things sometimes.
Yeah. 99 Designs has designed, like, a bunch of logos that law firms use that I use all the time, like, I
Mhm.
don't think I've ever designed a logo.
I did it briefly in college. I was in the graphic design program for a little bit, and it just to this day it doesn't. I don't get it. I'm not very talented at it.
I'll, just share with you really quick. So one of my graphic design projects in college was and the project was, like, design a logo for, like, a pizza shop,
He would,
and it was almost like a paint by numbers thing because at the end of it, like, everyone had designed basically the same logo,
yeah.
and, it was just like, "Man, this kinda I don't feel like I know more about how to design logos now, but, that's just how they taught it."
I mean, yeah. Even then, you're like within someone else's guidelines of being graded. So it's like even when you're learning how to be your most creative self, you're still constricted.
Yeah. So you talked about creativity and kind of being yourself. How are you creative, I guess, outside of marketing, or are you creative, like, just within marketing?
I mean, really heavily within marketing. I work a lot, and that's not a flex. You need to separate sometimes. But I do have a web design company as well, and also work with my friend with her graphic design company. So those, once I stopped doing that full time, they did become more fun for me. So I do see it as a creative outlet. Other than that, like huge amateur abstract painter. I read a lot, watch my housewives. So yeah, I'm always doing something to keep my mind busy. But it usually falls into the realm of work.
You know, and that's okay sometimes. So you run a web development business, and I guess you said it's kind of a side thing. Like, tell me a little bit about that. Like, what kind of projects are you doing? What kind of clients are you working for?
Sure, yeah. So I actually I majored in that in college, and I think I left with a giant ego and thought, well, why would I get a job out of college? I could just start my own business, and was quickly humbled when I was on my cousin's couch in DC, trying to do mock-ups for people and trying to cold call. So I got started in that with the focus of, okay, I'll just target small businesses. I'll say, small business discount, try to get those really easy projects in. That didn't work. I did start applying for jobs, but what really boosted it was the word of mouth. I would do something small, quick, and easy for someone. It would turn into something else, and it kept compounding. So as I got older, I took on, a lot bigger projects. I was trusted with the International Pickle Trade Association one when I was, I think, a sophomore in college. I don't know why or how they gave it to me, but again, it's like I met someone and they offered me to do it. So I would say 2 years ago, I really took a step back. Especially when I started working at Donahoe Kearney and felt like I truly found my purpose in marketing. Web design clients, they're demanding. And I found, law firm clients are as well. So it was a good fit, but it became too much to have a job and then go home from a job and crossing the boundaries there of maybe some of my freelance clients not respecting that I have a job full time, or not being able to give it the appropriate amount of time it deserves. So I would say I've stepped away from that a little bit and I come back when needed, but everyone I work with now are my standing clients from college, actually, when I first started.
And that is really cool. You mentioned a few times like you met Frank Kearney and just had this conversation with him, and you met, or I forget how you said, like, the International Pickle website. Like you met somebody and got the job. Like, it sounds like relationships have been a huge part of your career so far. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I've always said I feel like I'm like super approachable. Because people are always coming up to me and talking to me. I am super social, always have been. I think you would be like, yeah, makes sense. She's in marketing or maybe she works at a store or something. But yeah, I meet all of these super random people and they always, turn into these giant projects or these giant relationships. So that's always been like a really cool thing.
I mean, I just to reinforce what you said, like, I've definitely seen myself, like, a small network of people who, like you, can quickly turn into a big network of people who know your name and know you're good at something.
Yes, yes, definitely. I think that's a good segue into, like, how I can connect with the audience at Donahoe Kearney is because it's not only, like, these bigger people like my bosses or people I walk their dogs. It is the clients now that I'm relating to, and meeting them and feeling like, finding those relationships really strong.
I will say, like, just as a kind of a learning lesson I had to go through, like, I'm not like a super like social person, if I'm being honest. Like, I like talking to people and I like it when other people are social, but like I'm not like outgoing in that way. And so like I look back at like when because I've done like a bunch of odd jobs too. Like I was a video rental clerk, I was a nurse for a while, I did freelance web design, so kind of similar trajectories. But like early, like I didn't really respect the power of those relationships I had like early on in my career and at those like other jobs that were like a stepping stone for me. And really for me, like looking back, it's like I wish I would have like nurtured those relationships more because, like, I just let a lot of them go just because, like, I was just really passive and not, like, reaching out to them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think burnout with that is real, like, going to a conference, like the one we were just at, you're talking to so many people for so many days, and I got home and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I need to take a break. I need to just chill and do nothing," but I mean, it never stops, and, I totally agree, like, you do kind of let some of them go, but I think it's really necessary to sometimes.
Yeah, some of them it definitely is. I forget what it's called, but there's, like, this idea that human beings, like, can only, like, hold, like, 50 people in their heads or something like that. They could only, like, maintain that many relationships, and I always think about that when I think about all the people that I know and all these relationships. Like, sometimes, like, people are getting kind of far out there where it's like, I know your name, but I don't know you. Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess, kind of a transition, like, tell me a little bit about, like, the marketing that you're working on at, Donahoe Kearney. What are your big projects for, I guess, 2025 if you made them yet?
Yeah, we're always working on short-term and long-term goals. Right now, we're really focused in our YouTube channel. Everything we do is in-house. So I shoot the videos with my cracked iPhone 13. I'll just walk into Frank's office and throw a topic at him. He's able to do it, and we upload it to YouTube. I mean, and that's really like at the core of what we do. It's very raw and organic way of speaking to people. So that's been really cool to have that video project. Other than that, I really do focus a lot on the community outreach. We work with a lot of nonprofits. We work really heavily with our local unions. So it's really just like getting out there and We don't necessarily need to have like the Donahoe Kearney t-shirts on. It's like we can just show up because we'd likely already be at that event anyway.
you
So
know? Yeah, the community stuff is really big. Like I feel like a few of my firms have dipped their toes in the water of community marketing, and just like the few things that they've done have given us like big returns. And so like I tell people like when I'm trying to convince law firms to do more community marketing, it's like, yeah, you're doing a coat drive or you're giving $500 to a cause, but you're also getting social media content. You're building those relationships or nurturing those relationships. And it all just kind of like knits together at a certain level. And so like community marketing is just so important. I feel like it's much bigger than what many law firms focus on, which is like PPC, ad, lead generation. Yet it's like foundational. It's so important.
absolutely, and that's all we do, and it was a really stark contrast from I came from PPC ads heavy, at my positions before, and so I came in here and we just did organic and again, new industry, not doing anything paid. I was like, "How are we going to get clients? Like, what is happening here?" And then I quickly realized, like, our approach, it works for a reason. You know, our largest referral source is, people in the community, people we've already represented, their friends, their families. So it's been really cool to just go back to that basics and go back to that foundation. We're really lucky to be able to do so. I think we were maybe exploring, LSAs in the next year, but I go back and forth constantly, so I doubt I'll make a decision on that one.
Yeah, those are tricky. So one thing you mentioned is like marketing, or you get most of your referrals from former clients, previous clients. And I think marketers kind of neglect that group because it represents like group of like leads already got. But it's so important to like market into that past client group because they're your main referral sources. And they've forgotten that they worked with you, which many people do. Like I can't remember my doctor's office name. I straight up can't. And so the idea that somebody's worked with you once and they're just always gonna remember your name, it's like, no, no, you gotta
So
remind them.
and we would do marketing specific, like, I'll mail some candy and, like, get some handwritten letters for our referral network, but that's really who we're speaking to, like, our avatar audience is our past clients, and their relationship. So, when I'm writing for our emails, I do an email once a week, not coming from a legal background, I'm not there to talk legal jargon. I shouldn't. So it's finding that balance of like, hey, I want to talk to you to connect with you, and not try to sell you on something. We're just, like I said, we're just trying to make them feel more comfortable. And I think it works, but people are definitely confused by it. How casual the tone is. I mean, it's people outside, really, but how casual the tone is, how could you write like that for a law firm? Who cares? But it works. It's somehow, when I tell them about my 30th birthday, we'll get like the highest click-through rate we've seen in months. It's just that casual tone for us is what we've seen the largest results for. So, we're not there to change anything.
I'm gonna butcher this quote, but it's something like people don't like connect with brands. People connect with people.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's such an important quote because it's so true. Like people don't care about your brand, your logo. We're kind of going back to where we started earlier, but like they do care about people. And like if you are doing community marketing and you're a good person, you have a magnetic personality, and you certainly do. Then people are just naturally attracted to you, and when it's not forced, because
Yes.
people are always waiting for a pitch. Like everyone is waiting for the pitch. And if you come in and they're waiting for a pitch and they don't get it and you're listening to them, that makes such an impression. That is so important. And again, nurturing those relationships.
Absolutely. I think people like that I don't come from the legal background because they're like, okay, well, then can you explain it to me really simply? And I can. And that's a really nice part about it.
So, DC is pretty well known for having just a bunch of attorneys. All the politicians like to talk about how they're recovering attorneys. I watched a few congressional hearings where they say that all the time. And it's a super competitive market. And one of my clients is in Northern Virginia, so pretty close to DC. And I just know the competition out there is just crazy. Like, how are you guys dealing with that overall?
Yeah, I mean, it's a super saturated market and seems like everyone's doing paid. And because we don't do paid, we have to fight 10 times harder for those spots, which does involve SEO and which does involve, the constant content writing. Um, yeah, we're aware of our competitors. Obviously, we'd be lying if we said we weren't. And we're aware that they have really large marketing budgets, but I think what's different about us is our confidence, and there is a calm in confidence. And like I said, we're not here to change our strategy to try to fit in and compete with them. We earn our own spot because of who we are, not how much money we're throwing at an LSA. And I'm not knocking that at all. They do your thing, but personally for us, I mean, organic marketing has taken us so far.
Well, and it's also marginally cheaper because if you're a personal injury firm and you're trying to get cases from Google Ads, the current monthly spend to be effective is like $20,000. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. And with personal injury too, there's so many different practice areas and you get so many different types of calls. So it's to advertise on all of those. Luckily I do have friends that I met through GLM and we compare kind of the strategies. It's insane. You spend so much money for really not a guaranteed lead. Whereas if I trust, and I do trust, our old referral sources, I know they're going to bring us some pretty good qualified leads. So I haven't felt like we've really needed it yet. And we do save a lot of money. I took over the website, I think 3 months in, and that included someone that was doing content writing for us. So I took that on in addition to the digital marketing, in addition to the print resources, the emails. It's a lot to bite off and a lot of responsibility, but I like to have the control over it. And I like to have the one message circulating, and that's just our personality.
Um, so tell me a little bit like so I want to know like what you've learned in legal marketing and also and I guess these are kind of connected questions like if somebody was looking at joining a law firm as a marketer, what advice would you give them or what's something important that they should know going in?
Definitely to not be intimidated. I mean, I can't speak to all law firms, but and not to be intimidated, and that you don't have to follow that cookie cutter mode. I think that's one thing I found, and why I didn't want to use a company to write our content. It was the same as everyone else's. So I think it's really important to just like have the confidence and make sure you're trusted by your employer, but you also trust yourself. You're not speaking to the masses. You're speaking to a very specific person. And so, like you said, people want to talk to people. Keep it super approachable, keep it super raw. Using your own personality and having that shine through is going to give you so much better results than, like I said, if you're just pulling a bunch of leads in and not really having a targeted approach. I think everything I do is very intentional, yet chaotic. Um, so if I did have any advice, like just trust yourself. Just like be weird, be yourself, write about things that you wanna talk about, things that you think your audience wants to talk about. I don't think, when you're yourself and when you're truly yourself and confident, you can't go wrong. There's always that quote in marketing, like, what is it? "Nothing's on fire, we're just in work." And it's tough to apply the marketing and, like, 'cause things are on fire sometimes in the legal world, but we always say, like, there's no mistake you can make that's so severe that you can't come back from. And that's where we're really lucky in marketing. So trial and error, just put yourself out there, see what sticks, because you'll find it out pretty quickly when you one start to see your data, and then two you start to see all your relationships grow. Done.
And if you have a boss that trusts you, and sometimes that's hard to find, admittedly, but that's so important. It's so key to this whole thing because if your boss doesn't trust you and you're being micromanaged, your voice is being kind of stifled. And being creative like isn't always so important. Like sometimes like the job is just like implementing a marketing strategy that your boss wants to do. But like you do need like the freedom to like, I'm gonna send this email and I'm gonna word it this way and not have like somebody come and like question you, like, why'd you say this? Why'd you say that? And that authenticity is is so hard to fake that when people see it, they respond to it so much. It's so I said this word before, but magnetic. And I think that's so important. Like, and if you can, like, if you're brave enough to be authentic, just be yourself and people will latch onto you. Kind of the same way like so many people have latched onto you, your authentic self. And they see you and just feel like they can trust you. And I feel like they can trust you. So yeah, definitely a secret to your success. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. I mean, yeah, and like Frank trusts us so much to a point where you're kind of when you do join the firm, whether it's paralegal or marketing position, you're kind of like, oh, whoa, you feel uncomfortable. You're like, can I really do this? But yeah, it's a huge responsibility. But I like as long as you're yourself, you can't go wrong.
Well, that's a good quote to end on. So thank you so much, Grace, for being with us today. And I really appreciate it. So if somebody wants to like learn more about you, follow you, check you out, learn about the website, where should they go?
Subscribe to my weekly newsletter at Donahoe Kearney. It's my personal life, and that's no, just kidding. Yeah, I mean, thanks. You can always email me, so you can put my email information out there. But yeah, I'm always chit-chatting, honestly. Like I said, I'm approachable. I'll talk to anyone, and it's to a fault. I do need to get work done sometimes.
Well, that's great. No, I love it. Oh, all right. Well, thank you so much again. Join us next time for our next guest, whoever that may be. So thank you so much.